Ladies and radicals, Andy here, day 190 of the Inner Winner Show. I'm recording this one on YouTube as a YouTube video. So if you want to actually go and watch this, if you're listening to the podcast, go to the show notes below and I'll leave a link to where you can watch this one. Now, what we're going to talk about today is a video that Radical did. Radical's a moderator on my forums, and I kind of pinch ideas from him quite a bit. I love stealing his ideas. He's got some great ideas. And one of the ones that he did recently was about this concept of doing one goal at a time, rather than, there's a lot of people that sign up for my forums that will kind of dive in and do like 2, 3, even 4 massive goals at once and kind of like overwhelm themselves. So he says do one goal at a time. I'm pretty much on board with that. Sometimes I'll be like slightly flexible and I'll say, okay, do 2 goals, but generally speaking, try and stick to one goal at a time. Now, when we say one goal, we're talking specifically about like one big goal, like a huge goal, something that will take you several years to achieve, something like building an elite sex life or getting really big in the gym, doing a 250 kilo deadlift in the gym, building a business, quitting your job and just surviving on passive income. Those kind of like really, really, really big goals, do one of them at a time. Do not dilute yourself and spread yourself too thin by trying to juggle 3 or 4 at a time, which I see some newbies doing. Some people jump on the forums and they say, I'm going to get massive in the gym. I'm going to lose a bunch of weight. I'm going to move out of my home, out of my parents' home and live on my own. I'm going to get an elite sex life. I'm going to go on a ton of dates. I'm going to beat my approach anxiety and go out and talk to 50 girls a week. I'm going to start my new business. It's like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, I really appreciate the enthusiasm, but I look at those people and I know, like, from past history, you're going to quit in the 3rd week because that's just too many things. It's too overwhelming. And Radical has seen this on my forums as well. He's starting to, really get a gauge of how many people will jump on the forums, super excited. Really love that. I love when someone's super excited about their goals, but they just like dive in almost too deep, or they're unfocused and they think if I just work on 3 goals at once, like I'll just have the best life ever. I want to quickly. It's almost like you're trying to avoid the hard work. You're trying to like launch yourself to a point where you have a good sex life, you have a good business, and you're not going to work, you get to work on your own terms and all that kind of stuff. You have an elite social life. It's like you can't just like avoid the hard work. You don't get to launch yourself to that end destination instantly. I'm sorry, but a lot of this stuff takes years. Now, I'm not saying you can't fast track it. I'm not saying you can't do it 10 times quicker than I could. Of course you can. That's what my website is there for. I want you to be faster than I was. I want you to be faster than Chris from Good Looking Loser, my main mentor, where I learned. I was faster than him at beating my approach anxiety. I did it in like 2.5 months, and it's like it took him years, right? That's kind of the point of my website, to get you to speed up. But some of this stuff does take you a legitimately long time. You can't you can't fast forward getting big in the gym. That takes years. You just can't fast forward that. I wish you could. I wish there was a magic pill you can take. I know steroids help, but you can't skip the hard work. And I see too many guys jumping on it and saying, I'm going to do this and that and this and that and this. And it's like, just do one at a time. Pick one at a time, crush that. And then once you have that success in your pocket, once you can say like, okay, I beat my approach anxiety, or I lost 30 kilos of fat and now I'm super lean. Like, when you have that success, it is infinitely easier for you to then go on to the next habit or the next goal, that you have to build, or that you want to achieve. It's infinitely easier to do that if you've handled something else before, because it's like you have evidence that you can do something hard. Again, this is one of the problems with throwing yourself in the deep end and trying to do too many goals at the same time. You don't have any proof that you can do any of them. You are literally going into it with no proof, especially if you're a newbie, saying like, I'm going to beat my sex life. I'm going to beat my approach anxiety. I'm going to build an elite sex life. I'm going to lose a bunch of fat. I'm going to get huge in the gym. It's like, you don't have evidence that you can do anything big if you've never done anything big, which most guys, haven't. If you've never done anything big, why the fuck do you have the hubris to think that you can do multiple giant things at once? Show yourself that you could do one first and then do multiple things. The other thing to think is, if you're a newbie, you don't have any idea how you're going to handle your bad days, right? Like, you're coasting on this motivation, this energy, this like, I'm super excited. I can't wait to beat my goals. But like, you don't realize yet, because you haven't worked on a big goal for enough time. And remember, we're talking about some of these huge goals will take you several years to achieve. If you've never like worked on a big goal that takes you several years to achieve, and university doesn't count, so don't tell me university, that doesn't count. Like someone is telling you it's too much of a on rails experience, right? Like you're not having to do anything hard. You really just, I'm not saying university can't be hard sometimes, but you're basically just rocking up and being talked at, and then your job is to just rote, learn, and repeat back what you've been taught. It's not really something difficult like losing 50 kilos or losing 30 kilos or going out and beating your opponent. So for most of you who haven't done anything massive, you don't understand like the nuances of working on a goal. Like you don't understand how to work on when you're having a rut, how to get through that, what to do when you're having a bad day, how important it is to do something on your bad days rather than just saying like, oh, I don't feel like it today. I'm going to, I'll do it tomorrow. If you haven't ever achieved anything big, and when I say big, I mean something that takes you several years to achieve. If you haven't done that, you have no idea like the process of working on a goal. And so if you're trying to do like 2 or 3 big goals at once, you're playing on hard mode. Like what are you going to do when you get rejected when you're trying to talk to girls? What are you going to do when you step on the scales and your weight goes up for that week rather than down? What are you going to do when you're trying to start a business and you do some cold calls or some sales stuff and like people just tell you to fuck off? Like, how are you going to handle that? Those are the moments that really like rock you. And you will, like, I had moments like that where I'd fucking sit in my apartment and cry and be like, girls reject me. No one loves me. How am I ever going to get laid? Like, I would sit there and need to process all of that shit. If you're trying to work on multiple goals at once, you're just like doubling or tripling the amount of rejection you're going to get at a time when you haven't practiced and you don't know how to handle it, right? You're playing on hard mode. You're making it incredibly difficult for yourself. You want to be making this shit as easy as you possibly can so that success is as likely as it possibly can be, so that you have a win. You need to be chasing these wins. Have a win, you get your goal, you achieve success, you go like, fuck, I lost all this weight. Or, I beat my approach anxiety. I can talk to girls now. Whatever it is, you need that win. So then, when you go through the rejections with the next goal or whatever, you can be like, no, I did the last one. I know I can do this. It's like you have that success behind you. Don't make it hard on yourself. Make it as easy as you possibly can so that you have the most chance of success. Too many guys it's almost like an ego thing where you think like, I'm going to do like this goal and that goal and this goal and that goal and this goal all at the same time. Like I can handle that. I know that everyone else is telling me not to do that. Andy tells me not to do that. Chris from Good Looking Loser tells me not to do that. Every single self-improvement guy who's worth his salt tells me not to do that. Radical says not to do that. Everyone who's achieved anything tells me do it one thing at a time and obsess about that goal. Just pick one and obsess about it. Everyone tells me that, but I'm better than them, or I know better than them, or I can work harder than they did, or I know myself. I can do this. It's like you need to drop the ego. You need to have a little humility. This stuff is hard. There's a reason that most people don't build an elite sex life. There's a reason that most people don't build their own business on passive income or doing whatever they want to be doing rather than going to a shit fuck job that they don't want to be at. There's a reason most people don't do this stuff. It's incredibly difficult. You will get rejected a million times. It takes a ridiculous amount of time to get there, usually years for most of these big goals. Please play it on easy mode. Please don't make this harder on yourself. I want you to achieve your goals. So pick one, achieve it, and then pick the next one, achieve that, pick the next one, achieve that. It starts snowballing, but you really need to have that first win in the bag. You need to have your first victory. You need to reach your first goal. So then you're teaching yourself, like, I can achieve something big. If you're working on multiple goals at once, it's going to take you infinitely longer. It's like if you're working on 3 goals at once, it will probably take you, let's just pull a number out of our asses. Let's say you're working on 3 big goals at once. It will take you 5 years to achieve all 3 of those goals. If you just pick one goal and obsess about it, you can do it in a year, depending on what the goal is. Some goals you can do in 6 months. If it's a weight loss goal, you can easily do that in 6 months. You could do it in 3 if you go insane. You could lose like 20 kilos in 3 months if you're just insane with your weight loss and you're just hardcore on it. It's like you get to have that win earlier. You get to be a winner earlier. You get to be someone who can achieve their goals earlier rather than waiting, several years until you do all these goals because you're kind of doing them all at once. The other thing to think is if you're all in on one goal, you can obsess about it. And how many times do I say achieving a goal requires you to go all in? It requires you to be obsessed. It requires you to give it everything you've got. I'm talking like you have to just be obsessed with your goal. You have to be thinking about it all day, going to sleep dreaming about it, researching it, talking to other people about it, going on my forums if you want to, and using that for accountability and saying, here's what I've achieved towards my goal today. Here's what I'm going to do tomorrow. Checking in with your friends once a week or whatever and saying like, hey guys, what goals are you working on? Here's what I'm working on. Let's make it happen. Like it really requires you to like obsess about it. And it's impossible to do that if you have multiple goals. How can you possibly do that? You don't have enough hours in the day. You don't have enough mental and emotional energy. You're spreading yourself thin. So you're going to do a laxidate. You're going to do a have a lackadaisical, I don't think I'm pronouncing that word right. Lackadaisical. I fucking love that word, but I always say it wrong. You're going to have a lackadaisical approach to it. And you're going to be like, if you have three main goals, it's not even that you give 1/3 of the energy to each one of those goals that you could if you had one goal. It's like you'll do like 1/10 because somehow, again, this is the kind of stuff you figure out once you actually start this. Like so many newbies will start 3 goals and then a week in they'll be like, oh fuck, I can't do this. If you have 3 goals you're working on at once, every time you switch goals, it takes like a huge amount of like mental energy. It's really weird. So if you're like obsessed about, I don't know, let's say I'm obsessed about podcasting, right? If I'm obsessed about doing podcasts, for me to then switch and get obsessed about, I don't know, what else am I working on? Obsessed about like going to the gym and working on my body. It takes a certain amount of, there's a little bit of time it takes a little bit of energy, it takes focus. You have to kind of like pull yourself out of the mindset of like working on podcasts. You have to like, debrief from that almost. And then you have to get into the mindset of like, okay, now I'm going to crush it at the gym. You have to start thinking like gym. Okay, heavy metal music. Okay, I'm going to lift the weight. I'm going to fucking crush it. All right. Like you have to change. It's almost like you're in a different gear or you're in a different mindset. That takes energy, that takes time. And if you have to switch constantly, like between days or even multiple times a day between 3 different goals, you can't. Like that takes a certain amount of energy and time. You're wasting time and energy switching between goals, changing your mindset, going like, okay, I was obsessed about the gym. Now I got to get into like a fat loss mindset and mode. Okay, now I got to like start thinking about girls and what I'm going to do there. It's like you have to keep, it's almost like you get rusty, if that makes sense. Like switching the goals. It's like you're out of practice. Even if you were just working on it yesterday, if you have to switch back into the mindset of like, okay, I'm going to go talk to girls. It's like you have to remind yourself of some of the fundamentals, especially if they're not habits for you yet. You have to be like, okay, what do I have to do to talk to girls? Okay, I have to go out there. I have to hit on them. I have to be confident. Okay, I can be confident. Come on, you can do this. You have to like take deep breaths. You have to like psych yourself up and rev yourself up and get excited in order to start working on that goal. And if you have to keep switching between multiple goals, you're just wasting so much fucking time and energy. Just pick one goal, obsess about it, stay in that mindset for like months or years, whatever it is, months at a time, obsessing about that goal. And you don't have to keep switching. You can just be the guy that's working on his fat loss or the guy that's working on getting laid, or like me right now, the guy that's working on building my business up, building these podcasts up, building this YouTube channel. Like I'm obsessed about that shit. I don't have to keep changing tracks and obsess about something else and switch over and be like, okay, enough about podcasts. Let me start getting into like a getting laid mindset or a gym mindset or whatever it is. So one goal at a time allows you to obsess. Because let's be honest, like if you haven't even achieved one goal at a time, you don't have any proof that you can do that. Working on 2 or 3 is really fucking idiotic. I mean, again, I get why you do it. It's because you're super excited. You want multiple things at once, but you really have to take a deep breath and say, I need to stop bashing the microphone. That's what you have to take a deep breath and say. But you really need to take a deep breath and say, like, I haven't achieved one goal. I need to have the humility to do one first. As much as I want all of these things at the same time, I want to achieve all 3 of these things at the same time. I need to take a deep breath, be a little more realistic in the timeline, realize some of these goals might take several months, might take several years, depending on what they are. I can't have them all right now. I'm a little kid that wants his cake right now, but I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to have that. You don't get instant gratification. A lot of these goals take a while. It takes a little time. to get to some of these goals. So be a little more patient, be a little more realistic with some of the timelines. Do one at a time, crush your first goal, and then you'll be in a better position to crush the next one and the next one and the next one. And you get far faster at it. The more goals you achieve, you actually get quicker at achieving the next one because you've already had success. You know how to get through hurdles. You know how to get through bad days. You understand the process of planning, working on a goal, all of that kind of stuff. It's easier the more goals you do. The second thing I'll say is as you achieve a goal, it turns into like a background process or like a habit. So if you're someone that's working on his sex life right now, if you get to a point where you get laid as much as you want, you've got a few friends with benefits, you're really comfortable with girls like you like girls, like everything's pretty easy. It can become like this background habit where talking to new girls doesn't take you any more energy. It literally doesn't because you're so good at it. You beat your approach anxiety. You got to a point where you can just comfortably talk to girls. It's like a background habit that you do, like brushing your teeth. It takes no energy, super fucking easy. You love doing it. It's fun for you. Work towards that first rather than spreading yourself thin and trying to like do multiple goals at once. The sooner you crush your first goal, the sooner it can become a background habit that takes no energy. That's like a fun thing you do as a habit. And then you can like use all your newfound time and energy to work on the next goal. So you want to quickly crush your goals so that it can become a background habit or a background process that doesn't take any time. I do this myself. Like right now I'm working on my business, my podcast, my website, that kind of stuff. I still get laid. It takes no effort whatsoever to meet a new girl. Literally no effort because I handled that area of my life. I know how to go and talk to girls. I know how to go on Tinder. I know how to have threesomes with my girlfriend. All of this shit takes literally no effort at this point in time. So I can focus on the next goal. I'm not spreading thin. If I had decided I want to start a business, I want to start this business, I want to make money at the same time as handling my sex life, I would have done neither. I would have been spread too thin. Neither of them would have become a habit or a goal that I had achieved that could become a habit. I would have just been spread too thin, right? So pick one goal, obsess about it, go all in. Please don't run before you can walk. Yeah, learn to walk first, do your first goal, and then you can run after that.